good evening to all of you RWL fans. We are in the chocolate Acropolis, Hershey, Pennsylvania for tonight's edition of RWL Rage. Glad you're aboard. I'm Don Hickson, and I'll be joined by Christy Ogilvy and Myron Stimmelman, RWL booking agent. We have got a dynamite lineup, 2 hours of RWL Mad action you're definitely not going to want to miss, so sit back, relax, and enjoy it with us.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing tonight? Don's not kidding. It's going to be a terrific lineup. We've got a couple of championship matches on tap. There's going to be tag team action, ladies division action, everything you could possibly want out of an RWL Rage.
It most certainly is, Myron. Let's get the show on the road and underway. Our opening matchup tonight is going to feature Jim Dandy Deacons of Best of the West, accompanied by Billy White Moon, the Mid-South champion, set to go one-on-one against Jimmy, the Superfly Snuka.
What's good out there, fans? Don? Myron?
Yes, Christy?
I had myself a blast at last week's show, and it had me anticipating this one the whole week through. It's a sweet-ass lineup for sure tonight.
Hey, it wouldn't be the same without you, Christy.
Tonight's opening match is scheduled for one fall, with a 15-minute time limit. Coming down the aisle, accompanied by Mid-South champion Billy White Moon from Houston, Texas, weighing in at 258 pounds, Jim Dandy Deacons.
Well, most certainly no one can accuse Best of the West of not putting in the work. We've seen Billy White Moon, Tex McKenzie, and now Jim Dandy Deacons in one-on-one competition tonight going up against Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and that is going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
And I just love Best of the West, especially Jim Dandy and Billy White Moon, for picking up the partnership where their fathers, Chief Sam White Moon and Cowboy Bob Deacons, left it off some 20 years ago.
And his opponent from the Fiji Islands, weighing in at 252 pounds, here is Jimmy, the Superfly Snuka.
Well, Superfly getting a pretty warm reception from the fans here in Hershey, and it doesn't matter who he's facing or what's going on. Jimmy Superfly Snuka always extremely popular with RWL fans, and tonight he's one-on-one against Jim Dandy Deacons, and that is going to be a match and a half.
Superfly, he's won some, he's lost some, but like you said, it doesn't matter. The fans always happy to see Jimmy Superfly Snuka in action.
I'm wondering if Jim Dandy might not be in over his head with this match. Snuka is one tough SOB.
He most certainly is, Christy, but as far as Jim Dandy Deacons is concerned, we'll just have to wait and see what happens by the time the final bell rings. But for now, our principals are locked and loaded. Referee Walt Rothburn sounds the bell. They lock up collar and elbow. Jim Dandy Deacons shoving Snuka right back. Snuka with a right and a left Jim Dandy with an immediate counter. Up over the shoulder and slam right head first into the turnbuckle goes the Superfly. Jim Dandy whipped over the top rope and onto the apron. Snuka quickly countered by Jim Dandy Deacons. Deacons with a clubbing overhand right, a slap across the face. Jim Dandy winding up the arm into that top wrist lock. Jimmy Superfly Snuka countering with shots to the midsection. Snuka whips Jim Dandy to the rope. Power slam. Beautifully executed. Absolutely poetry in motion from the Superfly. Jim Dandy Deacons got the trunks. He's got him all the way up. Vertical suplex by Jim Dandy Deacons. Mid-South champ Billy White Moon cheering on his tag team partner, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Lines up the arm, Russian leg sweep. Down goes Jim Dandy. And it looks as if momentum might have just shifted here. Superfly Snuka taking Jim Dandy down a second time. Jim Dandy counters into a back body drop on Snuka. Snuka rounded up to his feet again. Jim Dandy Deacons has him up. Snuka with a quick counter and an inverted DDT from the Superfly. Follows it up with a couple of stomps to the back of Jim Dandy Deacons. Deacons gathered back up to his feet again. A hard forearm, a kick to the midsection, and Snuka with a snap suplex on Jim Dandy. Swing and a miss with that kick. Jim Dandy Deacons going to exploit the mistake. Jimmy Superfly Snuka with another beautiful counter. Meteora, knees across the chest for Jim Dandy. Snuka going for the cover here. One, and just only a one. Jim Dandy Deacons powering out really quickly. Kick to the back from the Superfly. Superfly with a basement dropkick to the side of the head of Jim Dandy Deacons. Deacons counters with another back body drop on Snuka. A kick to the back of the head. And Jim Dandy Deacons, look at this, into a surfboard stretch on the Superfly. Billy White Moon looking on as Jimmy Superfly Snuka's face, I'm sure, is contorted in pain. Jim Dandy Deacons releases the hold. Snuka counters with a kick. Misses with that kick. A slap across the chest. Jimmy Superfly Snuka counters with a clothesline that puts Jim Dandy into the corner. Draped over the bottom rope. Snuka with a guillotine leg drop on Jim Dandy. Snuka looks as if he may be waiting for a coup de grace here. Climbs his way to the turnbuckle. Jim Dandy in jeopardy here. Double stomp, misses the mark. Jim Dandy Deacons surprises him with a kick to the head, going for an immediate cover. 1, 2, another near fall in this matchup. Jim Dandy Deacons. Whoa! Snuka with a quick counter off the middle rope. Misses with the leg drop. Misjudged the distance. Jim Dandy catches almost a kick in the keister, but a heel kick takes Jim Dandy down again. The Superfly resuming control of this matchup. A chop across the chest, a hard right. Jim Dandy into the far corner, counters and escapes it. Another uppercut from the Superfly. A kick to the chest. And now, oh my, Superfly Snuka putting that foot right in the face of Jim Dandy Deacons. Snuka covers, hooks the leg. 1, but just a 1. Jim Dandy Deacons powering out. Snuka goes behind, stretching the arm, leading into it. Jim Dandy Deacons, his arms being tortured by the Superfly. Snuka not letting go either. Superfly Snuka really aggressive. This hold locked in pretty good. Snuka releasing the hold. Jim Dandy winds up the arm of the Superfly again. Superfly unwinding himself. Look at that. That was beautifully done by Jimmy Snuka. Whoa, what a kick to the face. Jim Dandy Deacons absolutely busted open on that one. Snuka drags him just about center ring. And what's he going to do with him? Oh, here we go. Giant swing for Jim Dandy Deacons. Round and round and round we go, and where we stop, we get nauseous. Down goes Jim Dandy Deacons. This could be the wrap-up right here. Snuka hooking the leg, calling it 1, 2. Jim Dandy says no way. Not giving up just yet. Snuka obligated to start all over again. A stomp to the midsection for Jim Dandy. A stomp to the arm. Jimmy Superfly Snuka starting to get a little frustrated. Arm drag from Jim Dandy. Jim Dandy Deacons rounds up the Superfly. Escorts him towards the ropes. Jimmy Snuka bounced off the ropes, facing forearms from Jim Dandy. Down goes the Superfly. Jim Dandy, there's a couple of quick jabs. Whoa, 4 or 5 quick jabs. And there's that double shot to the chest. Down goes the Superfly. Jim Dandy covers 1, 2. And another near fall. Jimmy Superfly Snuka enduring quite a bit of punishment here at the hands of Jim Dandy Deacons. Snuka making his way back to his feet. Jim Dandy stalking him. Here it goes again. Another jab and a bionic elbow right to the top of the skull. Here's a cover. 1, 2, 3. And that is going to do it. Jim Dandy Deacons defeats the Superfly by pinfall.
Here's the time, 6 minutes and 29 seconds. Here's your winner, Jim Dandy Deacons.
This was a close one for Jim Deacons. Technically, Superfly should have won this match.
How do you think?
Snuka was doing just everything right, and he had Jim Dandy cornered more than once here, with several close 2-count near falls, even managing to make Deacons bleed. But in spite of all of it, Jim Dandy exploited 2 very small holes in Jimmy Snuka's offense, and it cost Snuka the match, and showed us all that Jim Dandy Deacons can snatch a win away from even big-time heavy hitters like the Superfly.
You reasoned it out pretty admirably. Okay, I'll buy that.
Jimmy Superfly Snuka taking a painful loss at the hands of Jim Dandy Deacons of Best of the West. What a spectacular victory for Jim Dandy Deacons. That is going to do it for tonight's card opener. We've got a whole lot more on tap coming right up right after the break. We hope you'll stay here with us.
Definitely a lot more action up ahead. You're gonna want to stick around, trust me.
Fans, it was 2 weeks ago when Rob Torres, the Sultan of Sexy, made an unexpected return, attacking Bret the Hitman Hart after his match with American Supreme Matt Clark. The Sultan of Sexy, Rob Torres, is back tonight, set to face Jim the Anvil Neidhart with revenge on his mind.
I can't ever remember seeing the Anvil so upset.
This next match is scheduled for one fall with a 15-minute time limit. Approaching the ring, accompanied by Natalia Neidhart, from Reno, Nevada, weighing in at 285 pounds, here's Jim, the Anvil, Neidhart.
Jim the Anvil Neidhart, a big man in a bad mood since seeing Rob Torres attack Bret the Hitman Hart a couple of weeks ago at Snarl, and he has definitely got revenge on his mind.
Family is something you don't mess around with, and it could be the Anvil is going to teach the Sultan of Sexy that lesson. And what's Torres's obsession with the Hart Foundation anyway? They've never done anything to him to warrant that kind of behavior.
Look, I'm not too crazy about Rob Torres anyway. What he does is his own business. I have to work with the man, so I don't ask no questions.
Keeping things neutral in the interest of mutual cooperation, eh, Myron?
You got it.
Well, sir, would you just take a listen to the crowd here in Hershey, Pennsylvania, heralding the arrival of the Sultan of Sexy, Rob Torres, and he is definitely about as popular as chlamydia these days.
He definitely hasn't seen the light. He certainly hasn't turned over a new leaf, has he?
Hey, you gotta admit, his hair sure looks better.
And his opponent, from Nashville, Tennessee, weighing in at 260 pounds, the Sultan of Sexy, Rob Torres.
Rob Torres, owner of a long and violent career, both single and as a tag team partner to Dr. D. David Schultz and the Tennessee Studs, now disbanded. But now Rob Torres has come back to RWL with his own agenda, and heaven only knows what that agenda is going to be.
Forget it. His agenda's gonna be all about making trouble. That's all Rob Torres is good for.
The Sultan of Sexy, pacing the ring like a wild animal running the ropes, perhaps trying to intimidate Jim the Anvil Neidhart in some bizarre fashion.
We haven't really got a most hated category around here anymore, but when we did, Mr. Sultan of Sexy here occupied the post of most hated for months, and he's got bad blood with a lot more people than the Hart Foundation, and they all had better be looking out for themselves.
I'm sure there's more than a few raised eyebrows at the return of Rob Torres. Joseph von Schmidt, the Harts, of course, and American Supreme Matt Clark all have to be paying quite a bit of attention at this time. Referee Walt Ralph Burns sounds the bell. The Anvil into a Dragon Sleeper, but quickly countered by Rob Torres, and a clothesline takes the Anvil down. Jim Neidhart, evading the kick, goes behind on Rob Torres. Back suplex. Down goes the Sultan of Sexy. Counters the kick. Turns it into a dragon screw. Back up on his feet. Swing and miss with another kick. The Anvil gonna make him pay for that one. Classic wrestling takedown from Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Oh, wow, all the way up and all the way back down. Military press drop from Rob Torres. The Sultan of Sexy certainly on the attack here. Nails the Anvil with a couple of rights, a kick to the midsection. Gathers him back up hard. Right hand takes the Anvil right back down again. Jim the Anvil Neidhart forced into the corner by Rob Torres. Torres has him up, deposits him head first into the turnbuckle. Anvil counters the whip, ducks under, but catches a knee from Rob Torres. Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Whoa, my, he could have taken his head off. My goodness. Rob Torres, certainly very aggressive, in this matchup, but only a 1 count here. Jim the Anvil, look at this, Rob Torres. Absolutely a monster. Rob Torres rounds up Jim the Anvil Neidhart, pitches him over the top rope out onto the floor. And Rob Torres has certainly not lost his vicious edge over the years. Jim the Anvil Neidhart with Rob Torres by the mullet here. Head first into the ring post. If Tex Lynch were here, he'd be singing. And again, a second slam head first into the ring post for Rob Torres. Jim the Anvil Neidhart certainly not fooling around here. Up over the shoulder into the fireman's carry, and look at this, an airplane spin for Rob Torres, the Sultan of Sexy. Getting his brain scrambled a little bit here. Jim the Anvil Neidhart quickly countered by Rob Torres. A hard shot across the back. The Anvil counters with an elbow. Nails him with a couple of rights and a left, but Rob Torres with a front slam, shutting down Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The Anvil rolls Rob Torres back inside the ring, and here he comes himself. The Anvil catches a fireman's carry from Rob Torres. Torres with an elbow across the face. Jim the Anvil Neidhart into the far corner here. Rob Torres setting up a construction project. Up on the middle ropes, he's got Jim the Anvil Neidhart set up for a gut-wrench suplex avalanche. Boom! There it is. Wow! Rob Torres easily manipulating the 285-pound Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Goes behind, has him up, back suplex. And look at this, he's going for a second. A German suplex. And now Rob Torres, not quite done yet, turns him around. Vertical suplex, a 3-1 from the Sultan of Sexy. Rob Torres makes his way topside here. Natalia Neidhart looking on, very concerned. Cross body, but catching a couple of knees. Jim the Anvil Neidhart quickly back up on his feet here. Rob Torres whips him into the corner. Clothesline, but a quick counter from the Anvil. The Anvil counter whips Rob Torres into the corner, but a quick ole from Torres. A hard right spins the Anvil around. He's got him up. Sit out slam from Rob Torres. And that might have done it. Jim the Anvil Neidhart has the wind knocked out of him. Rob Torres goes for the cover, hooks the leg. 1, 2, 3. That is a wrap. Rob Torres defeats Jim the Anvil Neidhart by pinfall.
The time was 3 minutes and 57 seconds, and your winner, Rob Torres.
It's exactly like I told you, Don. Rob Torres' sole purpose in being back here in RWL is to make trouble. He just made it for Jim the Anvil Neidhart. He made it for Bret the Hitman Hart 2 weeks ago. Who knows who's going to make it for next? Did you see? That was absolutely horrifying. He could have killed Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
It makes no difference what promotion you're in. A professional wrestler with no regard for the safety of his opponents is always bad news. And Rob Torres has certainly demonstrated he is bad news, taking out Jim the Anvil Neidhart in just a few minutes. And well now, the Sultan of Sexy definitely back and has not lost his sadistic edge, not one iota.
I got a feeling, you guys, that Mr. Torres is going to pose a major problem around here.
It certainly looks that way. More RWL Rage when we come back right after this. Fans, coming up next is the return of the Toxic Table. AJ Hawk and Boston Connor, and they have a big, tall challenge in front of them in Bubba Ray and Devon, the Dudley Boys.
I had a lot to do with this. They came to me, they said, we want a challenge. We want a real challenge. I gave it to them.
This next tag team match is scheduled for 1 fall with a 20-minute time limit. Approaching the ring, combined weight unknown, the team of Boston Connor and AJ Hawk, the Toxic Table.
And here are a couple of the hangers-on from the Pat McAfee show. Decided they want to be professional wrestlers. AJ Hawk and Boston Connor of the Toxic Table. That is Boston Connor in the hat, coat, and shades. And that is AJ Hawk apparently fresh out of the shower.
You know, it's funny that Gene Berry from the Southwestern region, he said he's surprised AJ Hawk ain't wearing shower shoes to the ring. And I believe him.
You know, Myron, it was kind of sneaky of you, setting them up with the Dudleys. Aren't you afraid they might, get hurt or something?
Nah, they're big boys. They'll be perfectly fine.
Christy, somewhere within the soul of Myron Schimmelman lies a very evil personality.
Hey, I must be ahead of the game. He says I still got a soul.
In any case, Boston Connor and AJ Hawk certainly going to be up against it against Bubba Ray and Devon.
Their opponents accompanied by Stacy Keebler. From Dudleyville, and at a combined weight of 550 pounds, Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, the Dudley Boys.
The lovely Stacy Keebler accompanying the Dudleyville Lumber Company, Bubba Ray and Devon the Dudley Boys, making their way down to the ring, all set to make pals with AJ Hawk and Boston Connor. And I have to say, Myron, setting them up with the Dudley Boys does strike me as being somewhat sadistic.
Well, maybe I got a little bit of a mean streak when it comes to guys who aren't really professional wrestlers who pretend to be.
Well, there is certainly no pretense with Bubba Ray and Devon, multi-time tag team champions everywhere they have ever competed. A pair of ECW originals, Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley. And well now, AJ Hawk and Boston Connor are definitely gonna have their hands full in this one.
If I gotta be completely honest, and yes, I do, I got a feeling this is gonna be a fun one to watch. Not for nothing, but if the toxic table wants to play with the big boys, maybe it'll sober them up some.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Christy.
And it seems to me that one win by Boston Connor over the big boss man has certainly swelled the heads of both he and the rest of the toxic table.
So let them learn the hard way they got lucky one time.
Well, sir, with the Dudley Boys, it's likely to be an extraordinarily painful lesson. We've got AJ Hawk and Devon Dudley starting us off here. Referee Willie Johnson sounds the bell. They come center ring. Devon Dudley locks up AJ Hawk. Sidewalk slam right center ring. Devon Dudley moves in on AJ Hawk with a right. Gathers him up, another clubbing blow, taking AJ Hawk down to the canvas yet again. Hawk whipped into the corner of the Dudley Boys. And Devon Dudley stretching the arm against those hard ropes. Devon smashes the head of AJ Hawk into the turnbuckle. Hawk catching some grinding forearm from Devon. Whoa, that is sadistic right there. A stomp to the chest. And another. Bubba Ray cheering on his brother, Devon Dudley. Stacy Keebler cheering them both on. AJ Hawk brought back to his feet. Devon Dudley whips him right back into the corner again, but AJ Hawk counters and escapes the corner. Spinning clothesline takes Devon Dudley down, the first offense from AJ Hawk. And now with Devon Dudley down on the canvas, AJ Hawk bravely making his way to the corner to tag in Boston Connor. And now Boston Connor locked up by Devon. Devon Dudley countered into a back body drop by Boston Connor. Boston Connor twisting the head and neck of Devon Dudley as the toxic table tries to mount some offense here. Boston Connor with a nice arm drag. I'll give credit where it's due. Here comes AJ Hawk again. Devon Dudley catching a basement dropkick from AJ Hawk, but here comes Bubba Ray Dudley, and AJ Hawk doesn't see him coming. Clothesline takes him down hard. AJ Hawk steps outside the ring for a moment, looking for a break, perhaps a little bit of respite. But Bubba Ray Dudley makes his way to Boston Connor. Out there on the apron with him. And here we go. Oh, DDT'd head first into the apron as AJ Hawk attacks Devon Dudley. Bubba Ray making him pay with a clothesline. And down goes AJ Hawk, a clubbing right across the head. Bubba Ray sets him up for the powerbomb, and he nails. Whoa, what a powerbomb. And Bubba Ray Dudley, Boston Connor, still reeling from that DDT. AJ Hawk whipped into the Dudley's corner. Set up on the top turnbuckle. A hard right. AJ Hawk counters. Spins Bubba Ray Dudley around with a right. Goes behind here. Look at this, up over the shoulders. 300 plus pounds of Bubba Ray Dudley in a torture rack. A possible submission. Referee Willie Johnson checking it. But Bubba Ray With a series of shots to the head of AJ Hawk, releases himself from that situation, a hard right to the back. AJ Hawk once again whipped into the Dudleys' corner. Here comes Devon on the tag. A double team from the Dudleys coming up. A scoop slam from Bubba Ray. A high five from both Dudleys, and here we go. Whoa! Double headbutts to AJ Hawk. Devon rebounds off the ropes with a leg drop. AJ Hawk doesn't know if he's coming or going. Tags out. Here comes Boston Connor. Devon Dudley catches a wraparound DDT, and whoa! Boston Connor with a basement dropkick. Quickly going for a cover. One, but just a one. Devon Dudley. It's still far too much steam in the tank. And, tried for a second wraparound DDT, but Devon Dudley says, no you don't. Locks up Boston Connor. Connor counters with elbows to the midsection, backs off Devon Dudley. A chop across the chest. Boston Connor certainly feeling his oats here. Oh my, look, a pile driver on Devon Dudley. Boston Connor quickly covering 1, 2, but a near fall. Devon Dudley enduring quite a bit of punishment at the hands of Boston Connor, but still in there punching. Head first into the turnbuckle goes Devon in the far corner. Devon counters with an elbow. Boston Connor locked up by Devon Dudley. Whip to the Dudley boys' corner. Here we go. He just made Devon mad. Here's Bubba Ray. And here's a double team. Whip to the ropes is Boston Connor. 3D. And that is going to be about it right there. Bubba Ray covers. 1, 2, and 3. Woohoo! AJ Hawk a step too late. And here's the official time.
The time was 5 minutes and 34 seconds. And your winners, the Dudley boys.
Christy, Myron, I'll tell you, we don't get a whole lot of very short tag team matches around here in RWL, but that one was decidedly short. 5 minutes and change for the Dudley boys to quickly dispatch the Toxic Table. And here we go. Boston Connor catching the Dudley Death Drop, the 3D, and Bubba Ray going for the pin. And we'll be right back with more RWL Rage right after this. Well, since his arrival some 7 months ago, the modern-day Maharaja Jinder Mahal has beaten more of his opponents than he's lost to, a trend that he hopes to continue tonight, going up against former No Rules champion Jake the Snake Roberts.
The next match, scheduled for 1 fall with a 15-minute time limit. Approaching the ring, from Stone Mountain, Georgia, weighing in at 238 pounds, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Well, Jake the Snake Roberts, despite having lost the No Rules Championship to the icon, the legend Magic, still has that No Rules blood in his system. Recently defeating Mr. Pogo during the Japan tour last month. But tonight's a traditional one-on-one match with the modern-day Maharaja Jinder Mahal and Jake the Snake Roberts certainly rolling into the ring looking extremely confident.
Even if he was worried, which he isn't, Jake will never let an opponent see that in him. Now I'm sure, Jake has absolutely no fear of Jinder Mahal, and he and Jinder are meeting tonight for the first time. While Jinder has been pretty hot lately, I don't see him putting away Jake Roberts, at least, not without a long and sustained battle.
And that's what we're gonna get.
His opponent, from the Punjab, India, weighing in at 254 pounds. The modern-day Maharaja, Jinder Mahal.
Boy, I'll tell you, Jinder Mahal is one of the best stars we picked up from the WWE Purge. And the modern-day Maharaja, like you said, Donnie, he's won a lot more of his matches than he's lost. But tonight, Jake the Snake Roberts, I can't even really call the winner for this one. It's too tough.
Well, Jinder Mahal has taken down some pretty tough opponents in his 7 months with the company. The question remains, how's he going to fare against a seasoned veteran, the likes of Jake the Snake Roberts?
He's lots bigger and heavier than Jake Roberts, and it's going to give him an edge for sure. But Jake the Snake's always trying to think several moves ahead of his opponents.
That might give him an edge. Like I said, it's too tough to call. Boy, Donnie, this is going to be a good one.
It most certainly is, Myron. With Jinder Mahal facing perhaps one of his toughest challenges to date in Jake the Snake Roberts. Referee Tom Kanamura sounds the bell. Jake the Snake charges, so does Jinder Mahal. Misses with his move. Jake kicks him in the back. Jake the Snake Roberts with a stomp to the face of Jinder Mahal. And now into a choke. Well, Jake the Snake Roberts, all pretenses of politeness gone here. A stomp to the arm for Jinder Mahal. Mahal counters, gets back up on his feet. Drives a knee into the head of Jake the Snake Roberts. Swings and misses again. Jake the Snake Roberts brought up into a spine buster. Jinder Mahal yanks him by the ankle, tosses him halfway across the ring, follows it up with a stomp to the back. The modern-day Maharaja quickly assuming control of this matchup with Jake the Snake Roberts. Hard right hands pistoning on the head of Jake the Snake. Jinder Mahal takes himself to the outside here. What's he got in mind? He's coming right back in. Jake the Snake Roberts motionless as Mahal makes his way to the middle rope. Jake the Snake Roberts slowly getting back up to his feet. Here we go. Shoulder tackle. Takes Jake the Snake Roberts down. Jinder Mahal quickly covers 1, 2, but only a 2. Jake the Snake Roberts powering out, getting that left shoulder up. A swing, a chop, a punch, another punch, and a knee to the head of Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake Roberts catches a clothesline from Jinder Mahal. Mahal coming out very aggressively here as we move forward in this matchup. Jake the Snake Roberts catching a couple of stomps to the head. Jinder Mahal drives a knee into the skull of Jake the Snake Roberts. The modern-day Maharaja makes his way to the top rope here. Jake the Snake Roberts is all messed up here as he makes his way to his standing position one more time. Mahal nails him with a double axe handle, and again down goes Jake the Snake. A quick cover. 1, 2, another near fall with Jake the Snake powering out. Jinder Mahal really getting very aggressive with Jake here. Jake counters, rounds him up. Hard right hand takes Jinder Mahal down to the canvas, followed up with a stomp to the midsection and a stomp to the shoulder. Jake the Snake Roberts shifting the momentum in his favor here as he goes to work on Jinder Mahal. Rounds him up to a standing position again, and a discus punch that takes him down and busts him open. Mahal in the corner. Jake the Snake Roberts has him up, scoop slams him. And Jake the Snake makes his way to the middle rope here. And whoa! Lays the elbow across the chest of Jinder Mahal. Jake the Snake makes the cover. Here comes Tom Kanamura. 1, but just a 1. Jinder Mahal catches a stomp to the head from Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake drives a knee into Mahal's skull. And now Jake the Snake Roberts all the way up topside. Here we go. Misses with the knee. Jinder Mahal nails him with a diving elbow. The modern day Maharaja busted open and bleeding, but still fighting. Here we go. Jake the Snake Roberts takes him down with a clothesline. Quickly going for another cover. 1, but just a 1. Jinder Mahal gonna take a whole lot more work from Jake the Snake Roberts to keep him down. Mahal whipped over the top rope, out onto the floor. Here comes Jake the Snake Roberts in hot pursuit. Rounds up Jinder Mahal. Hard right hand takes him down as the referee begins to count. Here's a stomp to the midsection from Jake the Snake. Mahal counters, slams Jake the Snake face first into the mats. Jake the Snake counters with a kick, gets back up on his feet. Jinder Mahal looking a little bit bewildered here as Jake the Snake makes his way back inside. Changes his mind, starts the count all over again. Gathers up Jinder Mahal. Mahal, look at this. Jake the Snake Roberts with a military press slam and a knee to the head of the modern day Maharaja. Jake the Snake Roberts, the former No Rules champion, definitely pulling out all the stops here. Here's a knee to the arm of Jinder Mahal. Jake the Snake gathers him up yet again, pitches him towards the apron, has him up, back suplex, out there on the mats. Jake the Snake Roberts rounds him up again. Mahal counters with a kick and a jumping neckbreaker that takes Jake the Snake Roberts down. Mahal fails to connect with the knee. Jake the Snake back up on his feet, running bulldog, face first into the mats for Jinder Mahal. Jake the Snake Roberts perhaps wisely making his way back inside. Jinder Mahal spaced out here. Jake the Snake for a third time Comes out, starts the count all over again. Jinder Mahal counters with an elbow. Locks up Jake the Snake Roberts. Kick to the midsection. Tries for the DDT. But Jake the Snake, no, that's my move, sir. Ho ho. Jinder Mahal counters with a set of kicks to the leg of Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake Roberts. Suplex by the modern day Maharaja as the referee continues the count. Jinder Mahal rolls Jake the Snake Roberts back inside. The count broken. Mahal all the way up on the top turnbuckle. Here we go. Diving elbow across the back of Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake gathered up to his feet again. Hard right spins him around. Mahal goes behind. Look at this. Trying for that Cobra Clutch, but no. Jake the Snake Roberts quickly countering out. Mahal counters with another kick and yet another. A clubbing overhand right that takes Jake the Snake down to the canvas. Mahal countered by Jake the Snake. Backed him off pretty good. Jinder Mahal quickly taking him down with a drop toe hold. Jake the Snake Roberts could be in trouble here. Here's the Cobra Clutch. Referee Tom Kanamura checking Jake the Snake Roberts. But Jake, look at this. Jake the Snake Roberts powering out and taking down Jinder Mahal all in one convenient step. Jake the Snake goes behind. Look at this. Slam. Right down to the canvas. Jake covers again. 1, 2. And yet another near fall with Jinder Mahal getting the left shoulder up just in the nick of time here. Jake the Snake Roberts stalking Jinder Mahal. Perhaps sensing the end is near here. Uh-oh, here we go. He's setting it up. There's the DDT as only Jake the Snake Roberts can deliver it. Jinder Mahal is out to lunch. Jake the Snake Roberts drags him just about center ring. Covers, puts the leg. 1, 2, 3. Wrap this one up and take it home. Jake the Snake Roberts defeating Jinder Mahal by pinfall.
Here's the time, 6 minutes and 47 seconds. Here's your winner, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Well now, what do you think of this? Our first real upset of the night. Jake Roberts just had too much on the ball for Jinder Mahal to overcome.
Oh, look at this. Tom Kanamura beating it out of town. As Jake the Snake Roberts brings out Damien. Surprised he's not wrapping that thing around the neck of Jinder Mahal.
Now, I wasn't sure, but I thought this might happen. I thought that maybe Jake the Snake Roberts could pull an upset over Jinder Mahal, but I wasn't really sure. I mean, Jinder's been so successful lately, it's hard to imagine. But there it is. Jake laid him out with the old DDT, drags him center ring, lays him out for the 1, 2, 3, end of story.
Jake the Snake Roberts with a big-time win over Jinder Mahal, and we'll be back with more RWL Rage right after the break. Stay with us. All right, fans, as we conclude the first hour tonight, tag team competition in the mighty RWL manner, as Rikishi Fatu and Samoa Joe once again join forces, this time facing former tag team champions Chris Wilde and Jeff Fortune. Wild Fortune.
The next tag team match is scheduled for one fall with a 20-minute time limit. Introducing first, at a combined weight of 675 pounds, the team of Rikishi Fatu and Samoa Joe.
Well, since these two Samoan behemoths, Rikishi Fatu and Samoa Joe, joined forces, they have been a force to be reckoned with. The Samoan Submission Machine and Rikishi Fatu. And they are going to be facing Wild Fortune tonight with supreme confidence that they'll be able to take down the former tag team champions Chris Wilde and Jeff Fortune.
Rough match for Wild Fortune. While Chris and Jeff are well known for having beaten opponents that they shouldn't, this one's not going to be as easy as some of their past matches. They're outsized, outweighed, but are Wild Fortune outmatched by Rikishi and Samoa Joe?
I don't think so. I think Chris and Jeff can beat them, provided, of course, these guys didn't show up to work in a bad mood today.
Their opponents, at a combined weight of 430 pounds. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Chris Wilde, and from Loch Lomond, Virginia, Jeff Fortune. Wilde. Fortune.
Chris Wilde, Jeff Fortune, Wild Fortune. Chris Wilde, of course, the third Memphis Million winner, and he and his partner Jeff Fortune have been through a lot of ups and downs in their 14 years with RWL. but they definitely do have some tag team championships to show for it. And while Wild Fortune may have taken on some tough opponents in the past, Rikishi and Samoa Joe are going to be a tall order. Chris Wilde starting off against Rikishi Fatu as Tom Kanemaru sounds the bell. Rikishi Fatu inadvertently grabbing referee Tom Kanemaru, shoves down. Chris Wilde slams his head down to the canvas. Rikishi Fatu beating the head of Chris Wilde against the mat, follows it up with a stomp to the midsection. Rikishi countered by Chris Wilde, back up to a standing position here. A dropkick barely phasing Rikishi. A shot spins Chris Wilde around, and a neckbreaker drop from Rikishi Fatu. Whoa! Samoan drop. Chris Wilde walked right into that one. Rikishi Fatu making his way to the top turnbuckle. Here we go. Drives a knee into the head of Chris Wilde. Steps out, and here comes the Samoan submission machine, Samoa Joe. And Joe quickly going for a cover here. One. But just a one. Chris Wilde powering out with the greatest of ease. Samoa Joe locks up with Chris. Kick to the midsection. Chris Wilde locks him up. Whips Samoa Joe over the top rope, out onto the floor. Referee Tom Kanemaru trying to keep Chris Wilde back. Samoa Joe getting back to his feet. Chris Wilde finds his way to the outside anyway. Rounds up Samoa Joe. What a power move right there. Slams Samoa Joe face first into the mats. Chris Wilde countered by Samoa Joe as the referee counts. Chris rolls back inside the ring. Here comes Samoa Joe. Joe drives a foot into the back of the head of Chris Wilde. Joe with an elbow drop across the back. Chris Wilde in trouble here as Rikishi Fatu comes in. Rikishi with a stomp to the leg and a knee to the back of Chris Wilde. Chris winds up the arm, slams him face down, and wisely tags in Jeff Fortune. A fresh man in the partnership here. They lock it up. Whoa, Rikishi shoving Jeff Fortune back. Jeff counters with a series of elbows to the midsection of Rikishi. Rikishi shoving him back again. Swings and misses. Locks up. Whips Jeff to the far corner. Jeff Fortune having his arm yanked by Rikishi against the ropes. Rikishi Fatu backing it up. Winds up the arm, and here we go. Clothesline that collapses Jeff Fortune center ring. Jeff counters with a quick kick to the head. And quickly tagging in Chris Wilde. Rikishi Fatu trying to make his way to his corner. Chris Wilde with the prevent, but Rikishi slams him face down and makes it anyway. Here comes Samoa Joe. Tagged in. Locks up with Chris. Chris whips Samoa Joe into the far corner. Joe yanked out of the corner by Chris. Here we go, off the middle rope, bulldog. And down goes Samoa Joe. Chris Wilde starts raining right hands on the head of Samoa Joe. Joe takes him down with a leg sweep. Gathers him back up. Chris Wilde counters again. Swing and a miss from Samoa Joe and slammed down to the canvas by Chris Wilde. Chris and Jeff, 12-year veterans with RWL. Former tag team champions several times over. Here comes Jeff Fortune on the tag. Samoa Joe laid out and bleeding as Jeff moves in. A chop across the chest, a second, a third, a right, and a forearm. Samoa Joe whipped to the ropes. Jeff Fortune misses the grapple, misses the kick. Samoa Joe tags him with a right. Joe escorts Chris to his team's corner. Head first into the buckle goes Jeff Fortune. A headbutt takes Jeff down. Jeff Fortune quickly countering with a kick and getting himself out of the corner. Joe locks him up again. Takes him right back to the corner. Head first into the buckle again. A chop across the chest in a second. Samoa Joe tags him with another headbutt. Jeff Fortune not getting out easy this time. An alley-oop assist out of the corner from Samoa Joe. Joe rounds up Jeff, snap suplex. And Jeff Fortune certainly looks to be feeling that one as Rikishi Fatu comes in. Rikishi moving in on a helpless Jeff Fortune. Jeff makes it to the corner, tags in Chris Wilde, and here we go. They lock it up. Chris escorted to the ropes by Rikishi. Rikishi for 2. Has him up, hangs him up over the top rope the hard way. Follows it up with a stomp. Misses with the leg drop. Rikishi for 2. Made a big mistake there. Basement DDT from Chris Wilde. Chris immediately begins pressing the attack on Rikishi for 2. Right hands to the head with the big Samoan. Rikishi up on his feet, a throat chop. Locks up Chris Wilde, has him up over the shoulders in the fireman's carry, and whoa, hangs him up the top rope. Rikishi for 2. Steps out, here comes Samoa Joe. Chris Wilde locks him up, kick to the midsection from Samoa Joe. Joe slammed face first into the canvas by Chris Wilde with an inverted leg sweep. A jawbreaker and a clothesline taking Chris Wilde down on the mat. Joe rounds him up. Escorts him to his team's corner. Head first into the turnbuckle goes Chris Wilde. Chris Wilde put up and hung up in the tree of woe by Samoa Joe. Now putting a boot to the throat of Chris Wilde. Chris gathered up to a standing position here by Samoa Joe. Winds him up. Has him up over the shoulders. And slams him down. Double knee breaker from Samoa Joe. Here comes Rikishi for 2 on the tag. And Rikishi starts beating the head of Chris Wilde against the canvas again. Rikishi for 2. Really going to work here on Chris Wilde. And Chris may want to consider tagging Jeff Fortune in at some point soon. As Rikishi for 2 continues to try and give him the headache. Dribbling his head against the canvas like a basketball. Oh, what a headbutt. Takes down Rikishi for 2. Chris Wilde showing off some skills here. Goes behind, slams Rikishi down to the mat. Steps out, here comes Jeff Fortune. Wild Fortune, a very efficient tag team. Jeff locks up Rikishi, sets him up for the neck breaker and nails it. Jeff quickly going for a cover. Look at this, a little bit of style here. 1, but just a 1. Rikishi for 2. Still far too powerful. A boot to the face. Down goes Rikishi again. Jeff nails him with a right and another kick to the head. Rikishi quickly back up on his feet. A shoulder tackle takes down Jeff, and here comes Samoa Joe. Both Samoans busted open at this point. Another headbutt from Jeff Fortune on Samoa Joe. Joe whipped to the corner. Here comes Jeff. Samoa Joe counters, finds his way out of the corner. Hard right, spins Jeff Fortune around. Samoa Joe with a suplex and a full Nelson suplex. And he's going for a third one here. Look, a straight jacket suplex with a pin and a bridge. Wow. 1, 2. And that is the nearest near fall we have had so far. Samoa Joe tagging in Rikishi for 2. Jeff Fortune looking like he might be having some trouble. Rikishi for 2. Countered by Jeff Fortune. Locks him up. Swing and a miss and another slam of the back of the head of Rikishi down to the canvas. Followed up with a stomp from Jeff Fortune. And Wild Fortune certainly giving Rikishi and Samoa Joe a run for their money that I would not have expected. Jeff with a super kick takes down Rikishi for 2. Jeff setting it up here. Look at this, a submission. And Samoa Joe has to come in and save Rikishi for 2 and save this match for his team. Chris Wilde shows Samoa Joe the door as Jeff Fortune beats a tattoo on the noggin of Rikishi for 2. And now Chris on the outside going to work on Samoa Joe as Jeff Fortune makes his way topside. Rikishi for 2 laid out. Here we go. Elbow drop across the chest. Here's a cover. 1, but just a 1. As Chris Wilde makes his way back to his tag corner. After working over Samoa Joe, Chris Wilde watching Jeff Fortune warm up the band here. Here we go. There's that running spear, but whoa, epic fail for Jeff Fortune. Rikishi finding his way out, knee to the head. Takes Rikishi down. Samoa Joe decides he's going to get involved anyway and is shown the door again by Jeff Fortune. Jeff Fortune goes behind, slams the head of Rikishi for 2 down to the canvas. Yet again, here comes Chris Wilde on the attack. What a match we've got going here. Rikishi for 2. Rounded up to his feet by Chris. Kick to the midsection. He's setting it up. Oh, implant DDT for Rikishi for 2. Chris Wilde dragging Rikishi for 2. Jeff Fortune working on Samoa Joe on the outside. Here's a cover. 1, 2. And again, another near fall as Rikishi for 2 keeps the match alive. Jeff Fortune countered with a jawbreaker from Rikishi and a clothesline that quickly takes Jeff Fortune down. Uh-oh, here we go. Bad news. Whoa! Put all his weight into that one. And again, crushing the chest of Chris Wilde. The air has got to be gone from that man's lungs as Rikishi Fatu starts to really lay in here. Here's a shoulder claw to Chris Wilde. Rikishi Fatu taken down with a leg sweep by Chris. Chris Wilde with a forearm takes Rikishi down. Wild Fortune determined to not lose the momentum in this match that they have had so far. Rikishi Fatu escorting Chris Wilde to the corner, head first into the turnbuckle he goes. Rikishi Fatu stalking Chris Wilde here, waiting for him to make a move. Decides not to wait anymore, goes to work on the arm against the ropes one more time, using those ropes for leverage. Chris Wilde counters and escapes the corner. Collision with no result. Standing dropkick finally succeeds in taking down Rikishi Fatu. Jeff Fortune dragging Rikishi close to center ring as he can get him. Rolls him over. Covers and hooks the leg exactly center ring. 1, 2, and again. Samoa Joe saving the day for his team. Elbow to the face of Chris Wilde. Rikishi Fatu returns to work on Chris. Has him up. Front cradle. Up over the shoulder and hung up over the top rope yet again. Chris Wilde starting to catch a little bit of punishment here at the hands of Rikishi. And whoa, belly-to-belly suplex. And wow, what a belly-to-belly suplex you got there. Here comes Samoa Joe. Chris Wilde stomp to the leg. Another. Chris in big trouble here. He's got to make a tag. Samoa Joe with a slap across the chin. Beautiful leg sweep from the Samoan submission machine. Here comes Rikishi Fatu again. Both teams tagging extremely efficiently. Rikishi Fatu rounds up Chris Wilde. Has him up. Look at this. Mumbo jumbo. A little quick move right here and a knee to the head of Rikishi Fatu. And down he goes. Chris Wilde moves in on Rikishi. Decides to go for the quick pin here. 1, 2, 3, and well, now I don't believe it. Wild Fortune wrapping this one up fairly quickly.
Here's the time, 12 minutes and 8 seconds, and your winners, Wild Fortune.
Wild Fortune picking up the 3-count pinfall against all possible odds against Samoa Joe and Rikishi Fatu. Chris Wilde looking a little bit battered, but nonetheless, Wild Fortune still the winners of this tag team matchup.
Now see, that win was not luck. That was skill. Chris and Jeff, they've got talent they probably don't even realize that they've got it. Because on paper, forget it. Samoa Joe and Rikishi should have won this match. But somehow, Chris and Jeff managed to hang with them and still kept going and picked up the 3-count pinfall.
We got a lot of great homegrown tag teams here, and I think Wild Fortune are standouts, who are definitely going to see tag team gold in their futures again. How soon? Well, that's too deep to guess. But I'm sure they'll be champions again at some point in the future.
Fans, that is going to do it for Hour 1. We will return with the second half right after the break.